Welcome, Motorman and Rude Dog Show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's been a little bit, but again, it's all about transition. And when we talk about transitions, we're talking about sports transitions. Nothing can be more exciting than hurry up and waiting for sports, whether you're crossing your fingers or your toes. But here to cross his eyebrows is Scott Morgenroth. Scott, how are you? The other half of the show.
Oh, I'm doing great, Rudy. Glad to be back on the big show here. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you cross your fingers, your head? You have your head between your legs? I don't know. It is what it is. So I'm forced to do certain things nowadays I don't like to do, and that's watch too much TV and not go to the actual games themselves. But I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Rudy.
Yeah, no problem, man. You know, there's a lot of mysticism going on right now. And I say mysticism, I don't mean about this corona situation. I mean, mysticism in regards to when is sports going to come back? Everybody's wondering. Everybody's curious. Everybody's just kind of putting this out there. When is it going to be back? When is the NBA going to be back? Lakers had declared themselves coronavirus free, as well as other players. Damian Lillard, not really in agreement with, suspending pay and things of that nature. Adam Silver doing a good job. But right now, I think the most important thing we need to look at from not only a sports perspective, but a reality perspective, that this is a new abnormal, not normal, abnormal. And it's abnormal because now we have nothing but delays in everything. NASCAR's delayed, Wimbledon's delayed, golf is delayed. Yes, tennis is a sport. You have all different types of sporting venues that have been put on almost permanent hold. Wimbledon Championship or the U.S. Open has not been, well, let me rephrase that, hasn't seen inactivity for a very long time. And it's taking place at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, where they're going to be hosting COVID patients. And this is kind of out of control, Scott. From your perspective, when do you think is going to be the ending of all this, where everything becomes back to normal? And the past times that we have not seen, we have not checked out, we have not been able to watch other than classic games up until Rudy Gobert for the Utah Jazz decided to declare that he had the COVID virus. When is it all going to end? Do you see an end?
Well, Wimbledon, from what I understand, will not be playing 2020. That'll be 2021. It was actually canceled for the year, and it will resume next July, from what I understand. When will it resume? It's anybody's guess. I'm waiting for the first sport to go out there and start, and that's usually when the domino effects usually take place. That's what I think. Is it going to be in an empty stadium? Is it going to be in an area where you have 2, 3, 4 cities involved? There's so many variables, Rudy, that to me, it's like when the NBA decided to cancel, that's when the dominoes started to drop. And believe me, they didn't drop. They were like, they dropped big time. So it'll take one sport to get going. And then at that particular point, I believe the other ones will follow suit.
Well, speaking of following suit, the NFL is not following suit in a lot of different ways. And here's why. The NFL draft will continue to be the only showcase for any sports talent, new sports talent, up-and-coming sports talent, including Justin Herbert. You're going to have Tua Tagovailoa. You're going to have the who's of who being drafted. Now, I had recalled applying for credentials to go to the NFL draft, and of course, like anybody else, kind of wondering if this is going to be the entry point or the beginning of an end for media to be at the NFL draft. Of course, is not taking any further place than maybe an hour away from where I'm at in Las Vegas. Right. And it was scheduled to go on. Of course, I hadn't heard back. I don't really expect to hear back from the NFL in regards to whether media will be there or not. But at this point, from a media perspective, it's probably the safest thing that anybody can do right now is just to stay away from one another, practice the social distancing, practice better habits, maybe just put those old habits that we've had on the shelf back into reality.
Very true. And, for me, I'm glad that the NFL has had some kind of activity because, remember, I own the South Florida Tribune, and I depend on content to try to keep things interesting. And thankful for free agency, we had something coming in. And now, obviously, I'm hoping that my NFL partners will send me stuff through the draft. And I like to go to the draft usually at the team that I'm covering so that I can talk to the coach, the general manager, and all the decision makers. But yeah, I remember many years ago when ESPN had the draft and they were all put in a room and they used to get calls like Berman, Mel Kiper. You get the drill. All these guys have been at it for a long time. But I have a feeling you're going to see a scenario like that. I really do, where everybody's going to be in one particular spot. And from us in the media, we might be tuning in on conference calls or whatnot. One of the things I'm probably going to have to do in the next week or so is reach out to my buddy Dan Edwards up in Jacksonville. And I was actually in Jacksonville a year ago to say, Dan, obviously it doesn't look like, let me know if I can make the trip to Jacksonville. And it may be hard for me to do that because I don't know where to stay. I don't have anybody to stay. And who knows if they're letting anybody in the building. So everything, again, once we'll be have to doing things remote. You know what I mean? And as a result, we just have to make the best of this situation like everybody else on the planet. So, maybe in about a week or so when we do another show, I'll let you know what my activity is pertaining to the NFL draft is, whether it's with the Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars, or whatnot. But yeah, thank God for the NFL. I've had something to put up there because right now we're piecemealing content, but we're managing okay. But we can certainly do a lot better with what we have to work with,
Well, as long as we recognize that, to
Right.
work with what we have. And of course, a lot of sports journalists going on radio right now talking about, who's the best player this and who's the best player that and this generational
Right.
player in various leagues, Major League Baseball. I mean, I was watching the World Series when the Marlins won it. Speaking of Florida, Marlins won it and had taken apart the Cleveland Indians in that in that World Series. Game 7. Bases were, loaded. It was just it was a very nostalgic time, I'm sure, for Marlins fans being the only pennant they've ever won. But what that really does, it put things into perspective. Who was good, who wasn't, who were the key players, who were the role players. Of course, you have to have both, especially when you're talking about baseball. But I think more importantly, you have to really dig deep in order to find these stories, have brand new conversations with new up-and-coming types of talent. And if you're not digging deep to find those stories, to find those people, to find those players, to really have vibrant, entertaining, engaging conversation, you're really missing the boat.
Totally. And you know what? That was the first Marlins championship. I believe they beat the Yankees to win another one, but haven't done anything since. But yeah, I think what's so interesting about it, Rudy, that as I look at the various media outlets, and I'm paying more and more attention to the shows that ESPN has, I've got to draw ideas that if these guys are struggling, then this gives guys like you and I an opportunity to observe, to find out what we've got to do to make our brand a lot better. Because, now we even find some of the shows don't even have video, so therefore they're practically on radio, so to speak, like it was in the good old days. But yeah, you got to really dig deep into your experience and your knowledge, but more so, Rudy, your connections to try to make it interesting. Because from our standpoint, if we understand what's going on, you have a lot of people that have time on their hands that don't mind calling in because it's a way for them to utilize their time to come on and maximize their exposure. So this is something I've never imagined, but I'm relishing the challenge. And, nowadays you and I have to pay close attention to what's around us in order to make sure that we're doing things very efficiently.
Well, it is not only about efficiency, but it's about accuracy. It's about being entertaining, engaging. You have to pull out all the stops to not just be the guy talking about the same old thing, when you want to talk about it, how you want to talk about it. Let's talk about reality, right? And that's really what this is about. Sports is on a hiatus, but it's not dead. It's certainly not dead, but it could be on a defibrillator right now, especially for the NBA season. Where were they at? They were headed to playoffs. The Lakers could have been the number 1 seed. High school, college, and there were so many different facets from players giving, not being able to have their senior nights or their senior days, rather, being able to work out for the NFL scouts because of this distancing and this COVID situation. I think what it really boils down to is that when this is all over, when it's all said and done, what we really have to do is put everything into perspective. And when you put it into perspective, that means that you have the ideal situation, not only for yourself, but for the sports world in general, to get back on the same page. Because right now, the NFL is slightly behind the curve in that regard. NBA is behind the curve. Everybody is behind the curve. But I think more importantly, what we have to look at are the obstacles that are in front of us. The reality, the actual real, down-to-earth, honest-to-gosh challenges that we're facing on a daily basis. Sports is just another way to get yourself out there, to get people to recognize who you are, what you do. It's about engagement. It's about marketing. And if you're not about that, if that's not what you're trying to accomplish right now, of course, outside of trying to stay sane during all this madness, and of course, a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands, people are connecting with their family in ways right now. And I'm sure the NBA players, NFL players, WNBA players, as their season is suspended as well, to really kind of reconnect with their family. And they're not looked at as sports icons. They're just sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles, sons, trying to reconnect. Do you think this is a great thing moving forward for NBA players or sports players in general when everything gets back to normal?
The only thing I can say, Rudy, is you have to take a negative and turn it into a positive. That's all I can get out of that. Now, with all due respect, the Olympics we won't see that till 2021. They've lost a lot of money. And then, of course, you talk about, not only the Olympics, but about the NCAA tournament, where a lot of these, we don't even have a champion in the Final Four. And again, lots of entities have lost millions and billions of dollars. NFL still isn't in that bad a shape because they haven't lost any games. Right now, the NHL is trying to figure out best case scenario playoff-wise, and the NBA, the same thing. Yes, there's the uncertainty with Major League Baseball. And what are we looking at? We got NBA, of course. So, when you look at a lot of the major sports, they're definitely in regroup mode. I think what I saw this week was when Mark Cuban was on ESPN and talking to Mike Greenberg, he was optimistic that they could get this thing going in May. But I'll tell you, Mark looked like, maybe that isn't the case. I don't even know. And, I understand Mark's compassion for what he's doing. Everybody wants to see it get going, but you obviously have to take health first before you're able to go on any further. So, I'd like to sit here and tell you that when you look at each entity, though, what you have to do is judge each entity separately is what you have to do. You're right earlier, as you alluded to in the show. Okay, think about it. The Triple Crown being held in later on this year? When sports does get back, you're going to have so much stuff on the air that you're going to be swimming in sports content if the schedule holds true to form. When do you think you've ever seen an Indianapolis 500 taking place in September, Rudy? September, from what I've heard. The Indy 500 in September. Really? And again, the Triple Crown, same thing. One entity after another. Major League Baseball being played in October, November, although I don't foresee it happening in Christmas. I had a guest on the program last night, Mark Littell, and he didn't see it happening either. And Mark's the most candid guy on the planet. But, again, you have the practicality of dome stadiums. Where can you hold these events? I mean, think about it for a moment, Rudy. The New York Yankees couldn't even host baseball games in New York at all, which is where the epidemic right now, or pandemic, is probably at its highest. I don't see the Tigers doing it because Detroit's a hot spot. L.A., the same thing. And, of course, New Orleans, they don't have an MLB team, but those are areas hit heavily. And I wouldn't be surprised if Florida ultimately gets hammered. So, it's unbelievable. What can I tell you? Unprecedented, unbelievable. Whatever adjective Webster wants to give us, it's there.
Well, to be honest with you, to take a deeper look, a deeper perspective, players have to take on a different mindset, right? So in their mindset, it consists of, when do I work out? Do I keep the same routine? I have to keep myself. That is a mental challenge. For you can take the emotions out of it. You can take everything else out of it. They have to stay on point. They have to be consistently practicing outside of their connection with their families, as we just previously mentioned. But they have to really stay mentally sharp, physically sharp, emotionally sharp, challenge themselves, do different things, alternate, maybe try something new. Maybe they've always struggled with it. They have all the time in the world right now, just like, everybody else. But the big difference is that they have a sport that will eventually continue. Is there going to be any normalcy when sports starts back up? Because as of right now, there's no such thing as normalcy for anyone. But will the sports industry see anything normal as this pandemic finds its way downwards in a non-spreading manner?
Yeah, well, number one, you were right. Players are a creature of habit, is what they are. So they have a routine and what they do. Yeah, I ultimately see it happening that way. It's going to take a long time until we get there, obviously, because things are so upside down. They're upside down, man. You can go 360 degrees upside down. It's not like you lost a thing or two. Well, I guess when you look at it, we're lucky we've got the Super Bowl in this year and part of spring training. What do you call normalcy when baseball resumes 2 to 4 more weeks of spring training until we finally get the games going? You got virtual auto racing, Rudy, virtual NASCAR, Indy, or whatever it may be, where guys are challenging. So just to try to keep anything going, so I don't know. It's going to be a long time before we hit normalcy. And you can rest assured these owners are biting the bullet in a big way. And, how much money are they going to lose? But right now, money doesn't mean anything. It's just making sure that everybody stays as healthy as possible. But more importantly, Rudy, they have to pay attention to the government and their governors and do what they're supposed to do. Here in Florida, okay, I think you probably read this nationally, right? Had all these spring breakers that came down here and contacted the virus, right? How stupid was that? Really? You've only been warned about it every place on the planet, right? So the self-destruction that leads to the spread of this disease, to me, makes it once again, Rudy, a domino effect. I know I'm using that word an awful lot, but do I think it'll ever be normal? Yeah, I think it's about 1.5 to 2 years before it really does come to normal. Let's just get something going instead of nothing. And that's what we're all dealing with. A broadcaster with no game, a sports writer with nothing to cover, okay, a player, okay, who's used to, who's in the prime of his career, or maybe look at Vince Carter for a moment. Can you imagine that he may have played his last game and didn't have a chance to go out there and do it the right way with the Atlanta Hawks, I think it was, right, Rudy? I mean, think about it. His career, his final year is going to be cut short because of COVID-19. I mean, don't you think you want to see Vince Carter, okay, finish out? How about Kevin Durant getting COVID-19 and he doesn't even play the game at all this year? How do you manage that? He's getting more publicity because he has a the COVID-19 than he did putting 1 point in the hoops all year. How normal is that? You tell me.
Well, there isn't anything normal about whatever's going on, whatever the situation might be between, who's going to be able to see. I mean, high schoolers that weren't able to go to their CIF championships, to really make that a reality, to kind of put an exclamation point on their career so that way they can get scouted and looked at by the next level NBA, Major League Baseball, or even the NFL for that matter. There are a lot of unfinished business in the world of sports. And it is a business regardless, whether you're in high school, college, the pros, MLS, NBA, NFL, it doesn't matter. WNBA, it doesn't matter. Unfinished business means that these guys are going to not only be rested up, obviously, but I think more importantly, they're going to be sharp. They're going to be ready to go. Are you going to see some rust on some players? Well, yeah, of course you will. That's just a standard situation that's going on around it. And not everybody's experiencing this heightened awareness of, maybe we can get back to where we were. Well, I'm a little out of sorts. I'm not quite there yet. And I think a lot of abnormality will exist initially when it comes to how they play the game, how intense they play the game, regardless of what game that is. And I think you really have to pay attention to those signs and say, well, it was COVID. You clearly have you have the scapegoat, obviously, and that is COVID. However, what you really need to look at is, did I do my best during the time that I had in order to become better, to work on those deficiencies, to become the player, the person, the father, the brother, the uncle, the son that I need to be? And if I can put all those together, and it's a really fine balance, there's nothing easy about what any of these guys or girls do. This is a very difficult time for a lot of them, difficult time for Americans overall. But I think those that really crave sports like I do, and I know you do, there are a lot of deficiencies in regards to we can sit here and speculate all day long, what these teams are going to look like and how they're going to what actual positioning are they going to be in and where are they going to be at once everything gets back to a new normal where we don't have to wear face masks when we go to do a shoot around, on the floor. But I think more importantly, will the NFL, or will you see the NFL, or could you see the NFL not have people in the stands, but yet have the game on the field due to this ongoing issue?
That one's a definitive no. No way. I mean, think about it. That one I just don't see. The NFL, as much as they can sit here and put the games on TV, their environment's based on a fan. You're talking about all these billion-dollar stadiums that were built, and you're only using them, 6 to 8 times a year, basically, right? If you're Jacksonville, you're using it 1 or 2 times less because you're in London. But, you're only talking about stadiums that were built for, an 8-game schedule, So, the NFL needs fans, okay? The NBA I can see without it. The NHL I could probably see without it. But think about baseball for a minute. Can you imagine 7-inning doubleheaders? And I want to go back to something you brought up, which I really think was really good. I feel bad for all the seniors in high school and college that won't be able to go ahead and get to enjoy their senior. What about those kids that earned a trip to the NCAA that aren't going to get to play in it and they're seniors? So, yeah, you feel for the young ones. And with my publication, we have a lot of colleges that send us material, and boy, you feel bad about it, but unfortunately it's just a fluke situation that indeed is that. But I don't see, let's look at the 4 major sports, Rudy. Basketball, no fans, I could see it. Okay. Baseball, I could probably see that too. So I got basketball, hockey, but football, no chance, no way. UFC, I don't know, are they going to have fans on the road? Dana White's definitely taking a hit there, and so it just depends, I think, Rudy, on the sport is really what it does and what they can do just to get it out there. Everybody bite the bullet. Uncle Sam will be writing a lot of people, these owners, tax deductions anyways, right, because of what they've lost. It's just a weird upside down insane year.
Yeah, no, and this is unprecedented. It really is, right. And I'm probably using this as a solid understated fact that this is an unprecedented time right now for everyone, for the sporting world, for us as individuals, collectively, individually. People just we have to stay ready, right? If those NBA players, if those NHL players, if those NFL players, if anyone is not ready to go, that means that they weren't prepared in advance. They weren't, instead of being proactive, they were reactive. When you're reactive, things happen, and all of a sudden your hands get thrown and say, well, now what do I do? Where am I going to go?
Right.
What challenges do you think a lot of these professional sporting leagues, if you put them in an order 1 through 5, who do you think is going to have the hardest time? Who do you think is going to have the easiest time getting back to this new normal?
I'm not going to say any of them do. It's crazy as that seems. I think they're all going to have all kinds of challenges. It would be hard to say. I think basketball, if they can keep everybody in a certain area, they might. Hockey, I don't think anybody. I think the ones that will be able to get back quicker might be baseball. And if NFL delays their season a little bit, it's easier because you haven't bitten that big of a bullet. And it depends on the TV money coming in too, Rudy. Some leagues can go ahead and show sustainability because they work out good TV contracts that give them staying power. You know what I mean? And now I know some of the colleges will struggle because their football programs carry the other sports, versus basketball and the other ones. So I wish I could give you a definitive answer, Rudy, but unfortunately they're all going to struggle. I can't give you one.
Well, that could be probably the most honest and transparent answer that I can probably imagine. And sadly, you have people who are completely in disregard for what other people are contending with right now. And I'll give you a really prime example of that. Earlier, Rex Ryan went on the record, and this could be speaking out of frustration. He may have apologized. I really don't know. But I think that when he apologized for calling Amari Cooper a turd,
oh, wow.
That could be the one that he was sitting on. Because Rex is just being Rex. That's purely what it is. He may have a foot fetish. He may have a turd fetish. I don't really know. All I know is that when you call a guy a turd and you claim that he dropped off production, well, why do you think he dropped off production? Because Dak isn't good at situational football. How do you think Amari Cooper is going to be able to catch those underthrown balls? Dak isn't taller than Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, I think, is like 6'4", 6'5". And Dak Prescott, maybe 6'1", maybe. And I'm probably giving him a little bit of credit in regards to getting that ball to Amari Cooper on the outside. So what happened was, from my standpoint, from the way I look at it, is that Amari Cooper did his job. He had done his job. He had kept the Dallas Cowboys in playoff contention because of the catches. He had a phenomenal year coming over from Oakland. And now, because he's this key cog, that's why you gave him the money. I mean, you have to base this on production. Dak Prescott is not in the top 10 from a quarterback perspective. And again, going back to Rex Ryan in his commentary in regards to calling Amari Cooper a turd, he must be speaking for himself, about himself. I mean, something had to give. And I think a lot of that has to do with, again, frustration. You shouldn't have paid the guy. He wasn't due this money. A lot of things speak from frustration. Now, don't forget, Rex Ryan never won a championship game. He may have been a part of a coaching staff that did, but he as a head coach was absolutely horrible. Maybe he's too busy smelling feet. In either case, I think that there's going to be should ESPN fire him? I don't know. Everybody has their hot takes about, who when, how, and why. So you really can't put that into perspective. But here's what you can put in perspective. He had no business calling him that at all. And I think, again, it goes back to the frustrations from Rex Ryan, knowing that he had never reached that pinnacle. What his logic was behind calling him a turd, I will never know. But it was insensitive. That's not what we need right now in the sports world. I understand. Again, it's about the hot take, but it's about doing it honestly and doing it without calling people names. And I know it wasn't a real name and it wasn't a cuss word, but you can kind of read between the lines there. What were your thoughts about hearing that this afternoon from Rex Ryan on ESPN?
Well, there's a big rule that I know in NFL, okay? All the Ryans dating back from Buddy Ryan to Rob Ryan to Rex Ryan is they all have one common thing. You know what that is? Diarrhea of the mouth, okay? And again, Rex Ryan talked Tim Tebow into being a New York Jet, okay, thinking, I'll tell you, I'd buy a used car from Rex Ryan because he's good at selling, okay? But when I look at what ESPN does in general, I think I love Amari Cooper as a wide receiver. But when I look at the fact that they once upon a time hired Rush Limbaugh, and then when they thought they got over their head, they got rid of him quickly, why don't you get rid of Rex Ryan? I think he, to me, doesn't belong anywhere near a microphone. And again, his winning pedigree or lack thereof, to me, doesn't give him the authority to make statements like that. They just don't. So Rex Ryan is just being a Ryan, okay? And they all, to me, have big mouths. They really do. So I don't think you make those comments, especially at a time like this. We're not clinging for that kind. We're all trying to be positive, Rudy. Positive. How many deaths are we seeing about? How many cases are we being reported? And do you need to hear that untimely stuff? I don't think so. I totally get turned off by those kinds of statements. But remember, the one thing you should remember is this. Rush Limbaugh got hired. They knew what they were getting, you follow me? And as a result, they let him go. He didn't even make it through the season, Rudy. He didn't. So now you bring this guy on? Really? Come on. You tell me.
I don't know. All I know is that people are speaking out of frustration right now. Should they?
Right.
No, probably not. Less is more in this current situation. So I think overall, when you look at where sports is at, and it's really not anywhere, at least not from my perspective, getting back into even a new normal. I think that's still on a hiatus thing. This is Rudy Reyes and Scott Morganroth here on Motorman and Rude Dog. Those follow it. Take no punches. Yes, we do take punches, but only on the right cheek. But check us out. Like it, love it, share it, because we love that kind of thing. It keeps us going, keeps us rolling, and keeps us sane, especially in this sports plateau as there is right now, or lack thereof. Right, Scott, thanks a lot, man, for coming on. I appreciate it. And
no problem. I just want to ask everybody to give me a follow on Twitter at Tribune South, and also we have an Instagram account, South Florida Tribune, and Facebook as well, South Florida Tribune. If you do that would be greatly appreciated. All of our broadcasts, by the way, can also be seen on the SouthFloridaTribune.com, which is where he posts a lot of them anyways, or all of them for that matter. And of course, on the, as well as Rudy's outlets as well. But Rudy, it's always great being on the broadcast with you. And I enjoy every time and look forward to doing more as time goes on. But hey, when we hit a subject, Rudy, we hit it hard, and we don't spare anything. We do everything we can to make sure we look at things objectively and let everybody figure out their own facts. So great to be back with you, Rudy. And, enjoy Vegas. And one of these days I'm going to get out there and visit with you. Okay, buddy?
Yeah, all sounds right? Good. Sounds good to me. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot, Scott. And check us out again. Go ahead, at Take No Punches. You can find more about me at therudedogshow.com. Throw me a follow at Rude Dog Reyes on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm basically everywhere. Instagram, Rudy R. Reyes, and then some. So check it out. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And again, love it, like it, share it. We like that kind of thing. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.
And also be safe.
You too. Thanks, Scott. Take care.